Welcome back to another episode 105 of the Spittin Hoops podcast, and we are back today. I'm in a little new setting. This is probably the setting you guys are going to see me in for the foreseeable future. But that's actually not why we're here. We're here because the king, the GOAT, the majestic being that is LeBron James has decided his new destination. He's taking his talents, not to South Beach. He's taking it to, you know, dirty bars in Philadelphia. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Trash Town, Philly.
Yeah. But that's what we have to talk about because that's the GOAT in some people's eyes. A very honorable GOAT selection. So that's what we're here to talk about in episode 105. Anthony, how are you doing?
Bro, good man. Yeah, should we get into LeBron before we do our draft that we'll share with the populace?
Yeah, I feel like we could just cut to I mean, it's the off season. There's not much else going on, right? Since we did like the whole off season deep dive outside of LeBron last
Yeah.
podcast, right? So I haven't really missed anything since then. Unless someone really wants to hear me talk about Draymond, coming back to the Warriors, but I think we can skip that.
You mean for 27.7 instead of $27.6 million?
Yeah, dude, it's
Excited.
actually I
Uh,
wouldn't. Let's move on.
all
Let's move on. Let's
right.
move on.
Fair enough.
For people, anyone who missed it, LeBron signed with the Philadelphia 76ers, 2 years, $8 million total. What, 4 and 4, right? With player option, if I remember
Mm.
correctly. Bobby Marks was on this weird media tour. The ESPN guy was on this weird media tour talking about how it's impossible. They can't do this, and it's like they just waived someone and then they were able to do it. So that was funny. Always love to see that from the worldwide leader. But anyways, 76ers. We've got to talk about it because the team is pretty formidable at this point. VJ Edgecombe, Joel Embiid, LeBron James, Jaylen Brown, who they acquired also this offseason, obviously, and Tyrese Maxey. Off the bench, obviously, they're going to have Dean Wade, who they added this offseason, Anthony Simons, who they added up this offseason, but they are still able to trot out guys like Barlow, Adam Bona, who's obviously going to back up Embiid, KCP, who they just signed, etc. So, this is a team. This is a basketball team. It should be a very exciting team. And honestly, I think this is one of the most fun picks that he could have gone to. Tony, what do you think?
Yeah, man, I'm with that. Kind of just insane. We knew he was going to take a pay cut, but 4 million a year for LeBron is nuts. He's also worth a lot of money, so I guess what's the difference for him? He just wants to win a ring.
It's his
Uh,
happiness, right? That's what he kept saying.
yeah, basketball specifically happiness, because ain't no way, in that Northeast corridor, not too happy weather-wise. But yeah, man, I think this is like the perfect location. Obviously, I think was it Rich Paul that had that whiteboard that was kind of saying, "Oh, these are the 10 teams that LeBron is interested in," and the Sixers were in that either in that inner circle or like right next to that inner circle, and Maxey being like the clear reason. Obviously, if there's no Maxey, I don't think LeBron picks the squad, let alone the Jaylen Brown acquisition.
Yeah, I think that's like a fair analysis. I think like there's also just like a level of talent issue. There's like a baseline level of talent that LeBron was just not going to go to. Like the Warriors were just not good enough. I never really bought the Warriors LeBron thing. I just never thought they were good enough. But yeah, like definitely, I think the Maxey thing put them over the edge over teams like the Heat, for example, which I really thought he was going to go to. But yeah, I think that's the way to look at it. And I think this team. I don't want to overanalyze them as a basketball fit because it's a weird basketball fit. And I think this is one of these teams. It's like one of these super teams that's going to be like, either they're going to be able to play and it's going to be obvious quickly, or they're not going to be able to play and it's going to be obvious quickly, in my opinion. Um, but overall for LeBron, can we just dive into that by any
Yeah, yeah.
chance? Is this, I think this is way better ending of a career than picking, like the way Jordan went to the Wizards.
Mm.
I think this will end up being actually a way more honorable end of career. And I think maybe that's what LeBron was looking for. If he goes to the Warriors, there's a chance they win 35 games, flame out, and he retires at the end of the season. This team is going to be good. LeBron can get hurt for the rest of the year, and they're going to win 45 games.
Yeah, 50 games.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, this team is really good. I mean, LeBron is like a pretty healthy player. He's only had a few. he had the injury his first year on the Lakers, where he left and he only played like 55 games. And then last year he came back from injury, but then he was really healthy throughout the year. So I think he'll stay on the court and he can like play different positions. He can play power forward at times. He can play point guard at times. We know that Maxi's great without the ball after having played with Harden. BJ Edgecombe is going to have plenty of like spot minute opportunities to kind of take over. And LeBron can play center. So I think this is, yeah, the fit will be interesting and it'll take some time to navigate and figure out. But I mean, as a Celtics fan, I obviously don't like it, but as an NBA fan, it's really cool. Um, and this to me feels like if we're gonna do the NFL equivalent, it's kind of like Tom Brady going to Tampa Bay. It's like, oh, talented
Oh,
team,
yeah. I like
um,
that.
and they might not be the overall favorites, and it looks like what they're tied with the Knicks by some odds for first in the East. Maybe they're the second best team. But I think this is the perfect team because he gets to avoid like the ring chasing allegations by at least non-casual fans. Um, and yeah, he gets to take another chance. Like we haven't seen him in the conference finals since 2023, but even then, it didn't really feel like they had much of a shot. They got swept by the Nuggets. So yeah, man, this is cool. I'm really excited to see it. And this for me personally is like this could really get the GOAT debate interesting. If he was able to win a ring in one of these
Oh
2 years,
yeah,
just like
yeah,
a
yeah,
heavy
yeah, yeah.
contributor, like that, I would never have been so on the line in my life.
Yeah, I think that would be incredibly interesting. Especially because this is the type of team where if they want to chip, you would imagine he would need to be a major contributor. You know, it's almost this perfect line between team where he needs to be a contributor, team that's really good that's going to give him a chance, but team that's not too good where it's going to be like you're a ring chaser. You know,
Right.
but honestly, of the teams that he was going to, that he's picking from, I think he was kind of in the clear from ring chasing allegations. The one would have been, I guess, Miami, but that team was like getting put together, so I think he probably
Right.
would have dodged those allegations too, actually. So honestly, I didn't think he was gonna pick them, but I think this is really interesting. I think it's really spicy, to be honest.
Yeah.
The East just
The East, man.
continues.
The East, is it finally better than the West? Is it finally better?
Hey man, I mean, they're playing for it though. You can't be like no, or you can't be like yes. Like you can't. I don't mean you can't discount the East in any of these discussions, right? Like this season's gonna show us. I don't know.
Dude, yeah. Two out of the last three champs. Halliburton injury away from maybe three-peating the East is, and it's definitely like I mean the West is deep too. Like it's not just OKC and San Antonio and then nothing. Like the Nuggets are solid still, the Timberwolves are solid still. The
But you get
Lakers
to
are
the
good.
Jazz a lot quicker than you'd expect, you know.
Yeah.
So I think it's very possible the East is substantially better than the West this year, or like maybe not substantially, but like better, like a good amount better than the West this year.
Yeah. Not like the NBA Finals is in the Eastern Conference Finals. Like that still is not the case, but it's like
No,
more
yeah, and
full.
the issue is an NBA that has this level of Thunder and Spurs. It's just probably never gonna have like the Eastern Conference be like the de facto NBA Finals, right?
Yeah.
Um, but for they're getting as close as they can. You know, it's like
Yeah.
they're
They're
taking,
trying.
yeah, it's gonna be great, dude. The East is gonna be. I mean, as someone who like fucks with the Wizards, it's like you know.
Wizards will be fun.
They'll be fun, but it was like, this Wizards team in the East 3 years ago was like a 7, 8 seed. This
Mm,
Wizards team now is like a 10, 11, 12 seed. You know,
yeah.
like I
Yeah.
can't predict the Wizards to finish higher than ninth, probably. I was looking at the
Totally.
standings, but
Yeah.
funny.
Crazy, bro. Crazy.
Um,
So excited.
Anything else? Do you want to get into our draft? This is probably going to be the meat of our podcast, Ayo. But
Yo, indeed. Yeah, man. Just funny enough. I mean, we can share what the draft is, but LeBron was very close to qualifying for this draft, ironically speaking, based on his age. Not actually, but
yeah, actually, yeah, not too far off. Yeah, let's dive right in.
yeah. Hell yeah.
So the draft for those watching.
Draft.
Um, we're basically we're combining every single NBA draft from 1990 to 1999. We're putting them all together into one draft. And we're gonna get to draft rosters from that player pool of all the players who drafted from 1990 to 1999. and yeah, we're just gonna draft teams. And yeah, this question I guess I had for you, Tony. Are we judging
Mm.
this based off career? Are we judging this based off peak? Are we just leaving it open ended?
I like a healthy mix
Okay.
because I think
Uh,
there are going to be some guys here that had good peaks and then did really well as role players later on, as I'm
yeah,
sure you've seen in your record. So, like, maybe we make this kind of like a,
a
you know
mix.
what? Why don't we honor those earlier leagues and say we're not too worried if you have great three-point shooting because that wasn't as much of a premium back then, but if you have it, it's good. And we try to create teams that are well enough balanced. So
Yeah.
I got this idea from listening to the Bill Simmons podcast when he had done the 2012 and 2013 mega draft combined because those drafts are pretty shallow. And
The
I'd
whole
heard like
90s, the whole 90s is shallow.
and so, dude, yeah. So this was fun, man. I'm excited, and I also, uh, so yeah, let's do it like combined fit. Let's take into account both peak and duration, and then obviously we want to bring up like key moments from the players, and then I'd love to also take a second. I put down like 40 or something guys, maybe like 38. That I'd be surprised if you pick somebody outside of those. But either way, we can like have a second to talk through like their accolades and stuff like that, just in case people that are listening or even we like haven't really done as much of a deep dive into these guys' careers because they were, playing before we were alive in many cases.
Yeah,
So,
I'm with it. This I'm
cool.
totally with it. And then let's do snake draft.
Snake, indeed.
And then do you want to go first or do you want me to go first? But yeah, I'm with all that, by the way. That works.
Um, I feel like I went first last time.
All right, bet. So I gotta go
So
first this time.
you go first.
All right, let's get right to it.
Yes, sir.
I gotta pick Shaquille O'Neal.
Okay.
I have to. I have to. I love Tim Duncan. I think that's the two. But I think Shaq is just yeah, and respect to Duncan because you can't play him at power forward, right? But I think Shaq is just a dominant center. Uh, Plug and play, don't have to question it. Um, and yeah, I will say I think there's another possible pick that you can go with, but well, I'm building a team, I also got to think
Yeah,
about that, so
I'm building a team.
Shaq is
Yeah,
my
man. So
number one pick.
just some quick things that I loved. Obviously, Diesel is self-explanatory, but I think this is a great call. Uh, top eight player of all time, and some people have him as high as like top five. But Hall of Fame, obviously, 15-time All-Star, two-time scoring champ, 14-time All-NBA, three-time All-Defense. Came second place in Defensive Player of the Year in 2000. So, like, was not a snub or anything like that. Three-time Final MVP and four-time champion. So even good. Uh, averaging over 20 points per game in Miami as well. Great footwork, great hands. He could pass the ball in his peak and 10 seasons of 27, 10 boards and two blocks. So, yeah, I mean, obviously most dominant player in NBA history for many folks. So
Yeah,
that is an understandable great first pick. And so I'm doing this by tiers. So I view this Shaq as one of the three guys in the Pantheon tier. Um, and I'm kind of now realizing that I wish I had requested the first pick because based on how the talent breaks down, in my opinion, I think you're going to get like three
a
of the
good
top
shake.
five best guys. But anyways, uh, yeah, man, it doesn't really matter the order here, but I'm going to take a combination of who is far and away the best guard and obviously shooting guard here in Kobe Bryant. Kobe for many people is as good as top five. In my opinion, I think he's like closer to like the 10 to 12 range, but I'm not here to argue. But obviously Hall of Fame, 25 points per game for his career, two-time scoring champ, 2008 MVP, only won one MVP, which is kind of crazy. But I do think that he was probably arguably the best player in the NBA, arguably. So like top three for like at least 7 seasons, maybe more, but had
Yeah,
a stretch from like '02 to 2013 where he's averaging 27. But 9 seasons of that, averaged 30 points per game in playoffs for back-to-back Finals MVPs from 2009 to 2010. Um, and
He's
12-time
top
all
five.
defense.
He's top five MVP 13 out of 14 years from 2000 onwards,
Yeah,
basically, right?
right. So,
Like 2001 or 2002 onwards. So,
right. Probably the best top three, four best players like I've ever seen play for sure. Like maybe even the second best player I've seen in terms of like how scary he was to watch after LeBron. So yeah, obviously that was going to be my pick. And then next up with the third pick, I'm going to take the fundamental himself, Tim Duncan,
yeah.
drafted in 97, also Hall of Fame, 15-time All-Star, 5-time NBA champ, as well as just like Kobe, but three Finals MVPs instead, 15-time All-NBA, 15-time All-Defense, Mr. 15 himself everywhere. 14 years between his first and last chip, which is nuts. Two-time MVP, arguably again another guy who was the best player for 7 years in a similar overlap with Kobe. 9 years of top five MVP finishes. So just an absolute dog. And yeah, gotta love Mr. Timmy D.
Yeah, I think that's the right picks. That's what I would have done too in your situation. I random note, and obviously not that important, but yeah, I think Kobe, I would have picked him ahead of Duncan as well. I also think the gap between Kobe and anyone else at his position in this range is a lot bigger than like this Duncan, Shaq, etc. Um, but also Kobe is a pretty unique style of player, right? Like I feel like, that's another thing to consider as we're building these, because yeah, we're picking 15
Right.
people each, right? So, but yeah, I think that's the right picks. Duncan, um, is also a level above the guy, this next guy I'm about to pick, which is Dirk Nowitzki.
Mm.
But I think, yeah, I actually think going second was probably good. I think getting two of the three best is probably better here than getting, yeah, I guess we'll see how it rolls out. But,
Mm.
yeah, here. Okay, so I'm getting Dirk. Because right here, there's someone I would pick, but positionally, I'm kind of locked in, and I don't want to play Dirk at the three.
Okay, interesting. Well, just
So,
real quick on Dirk before you take your next pick.
oh, yes,
14-time
yes.
All-Star, 2011 Finals MVP, 12-time All-NBA, 2007 MVP, arguably the GOAT shooting big man. 13 seasons of 20 points per game. So he never really had like a 30 points per game type of output, but he averaged 25 points per game in the playoffs, and then notoriously, after choking away potential leads, just an absolute dog in 2011, one of the hardest runs of all time. So I do think that that's a great, pick, and you have an amazing offensive twin tower situation.
Yeah, and good spacing, because obviously he can shoot, but also not like very clutch, and can play with a lot of different players, which is something I wanted. That was
Yeah.
my worry with the other guy who I'm not going to pick, which I already alluded to. I'm going to be picking Steve Nash.
Okay. Wow. All right.
So I got
Stevie.
Nash, Nowitzki, Shaq, and then real quick on Steve Nash. Obviously,
Mm.
he's got the two MVPs, five-time All-Star, seven-time All-NBA. You're really picking him here. You, me, that's who I'm referring to as me. But you're really picking him for his peak, which is a two MVP. Just great, one of the best passers ever, incredibly efficient. Obviously, a player they almost feel like could have done more over the course of his career, but um, uh, a player who was also really good in the playoffs too, despite losing repeatedly to Kobe and Dirk and Tim Duncan. Yeah, I feel very confident picking him here. There's someone that I rank higher all time that I didn't pick, but again,
Hmm.
that's due to
For
the
fit.
positions. So yeah.
Oh, fair enough. Yeah, Steve Nash is an interesting guy because he was kind of wrapping up his career when I feel like you and I were starting to pay more attention to the league.
Mhm.
And like I did not realize that he was 30 when he started his career in Phoenix, but then he went to Dallas, won a couple All-Stars there, and then went back to Phoenix. I did not realize he came back as a 30-year-old. So he's
Yeah.
like past his athletic prime, and then he wins the MVPs. Then he gets all those assist championships. Um,
He doesn't move to LA till he's what, 38, 39?
right.
Like he's ancient by that time, you know.
Right.
Um,
Insane.
he,
So,
I think he has a top 10 MVP season like age 36 or 35, by the way.
yeah, he does. Yeah, age 37. Yeah,
That's crazy, which is
insane.
electric.
Yeah,
So
and
yeah,
yeah, that yeah. All right, yeah. No, shout out to
it,
Steve Nash.
and really I like, especially in a format like this, I like that Steve Nash can play with anyone because he can shoot the ball like crazy. And he's a great passer. And also, this is not an era with big guards. In theory, if you could pick a 6'6" point guard of some sort or feasibly play two shooting guards, I'd feel more worried. But I think most likely you'll have to end up picking one of these other amazing guard options. But I think that Steve Nash could probably play on the same court as,
100%.
yeah.
He's also played with both Dirk and Shaq.
Yeah.
So
The although Shaq was not, it
different,
wasn't pretty.
different
Uh,
Shaq. Yeah.
General manager who put that Shaq and Steve Nash team together, do you know who it was?
Oh no, who was it?
Steve Kerr.
No way. Oh,
Yes.
that's so good.
Yes, that's a
Man,
little fun fact for you.
damn.
But yeah, so
Wow, a pioneer everywhere he went.
uh,
Um,
I don't know about all that.
in a few places, but so nice. I mean, yeah, it makes sense that you're kind of taking a point guard to round out your team. I think based on your selections, I'm Tim Duncan did spend a lot of time at the center position. So I'm just going to go ahead and boop him over to the center spot and just have him be an absolute dog on defense. My team is just a defensive beast, but I'm going to take the other. I had Dirk and Kevin Garnett will be my pick. Those were the last two in the top 25, in my opinion, like all time range. So I get that you didn't want to take KG to your size, but so we got Hall of Fame, 15-time All-Star, 4-time rebounding champ, 9-time All-NBA, 12-time All-Defense, 2008 Defensive Player of the Year, in which he was also third in MVP when he first came to the Celtics, and 2004 MVP. Probably 5 seasons where he was like a top 5 player at least, and could go toe to toe with Tim Duncan in terms of like his scoring ability, his defense, great passer. Had like 9 seasons of 20 and 10. So an instrumental piece of the Celtics NBA championship. And the what if game is crazy, but he got injured in 2009. Curious what could have happened, but definitely squandered his prime in Minnesota. But got to go with the big ticket. It's power forward.
And I think that's a great pick. Realistically, the only thing that puts Dirk ahead of the big ticket is Dirk's championship run as an all-timer. It's a
Right.
nutty, nutty all-timer. And if it's not like that, and if it goes differently, maybe we think about it a little differently. But yeah, I think that's the right pick. That's the guy that I was alluding to this whole time, right?
Right.
So,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
um, would have loved to pick him too. I think Garnett plus Garnett plus Shaq, also front line makes a little less sense than Shaq and Nowitzki, but yeah.
Right.
But Duncan and Garnett is fun because they can both shoot. So
Yeah. Yeah, that's true.
because
Um,
Shaq and Garnett doesn't really make sense, but Duncan and Garnett does make sense.
yeah, and they're right in their own way. I am a little devoid of shooting, but they can both hit elbow jumpers, no problem.
Yeah, this is not Shaq and Zydrunas Ilgauskas playing. Both these
Right? Yeah.
guys can
And
space
if
it.
Ilgauskas gets picked, then respect. Um,
Not on my short list, by the way.
yeah. All right. So, hmm, I think that there are a bunch of guards coming up based on my own like projections. So I'm kind of wondering what would make sense here. If it makes sense to go with kind of like a peak guy or closer to a like longevity guy. Oh, I'm whatever. We just got to go with what we got. I'm gonna stay with like the resume of the top 50. So I feel like I'll have a point guard later, but I'm gonna go with the truth himself, being a bit of a homer here. But Paul Pierce, certainly not the what seventh best player for sure in this, but anyways, he's also 6'7", so I get that height. But he came in and he just started cooking. So up to 25 points per game by his age 23 season, 26, 26, 10-time All-Star, the Finals MVP of 2008, four-time All-NBA, averaged 22 points per game in his Celtics tenure, averaged 21 in his Celtics playoff games. Uh, and even in his fifth season, he still helped lead the Celtics to the conference finals in his fourth season, rather an average 24 games. So, um, and even as an old guy, like played okay with Brooklyn and Washington, like still had a little bit of postseason success that I was certainly old enough at this point to, remember when they played against the Raptors in Game 7 of that little block against Kyle Lowry. So, and with the Wizards, hitting a buzzer beater in the playoffs to win the game. So, the truth, man, not the best player here, but I like the fit. I get good shooting, and has also played with Kevin Garnett and would have gone so hard in practice against Kobe. So, Paul Pierce.
Damn, I actually think that was the right pick. I think that was a really good pick. Um, damn, damn. Because the thing is, the forward position gets very
It gets
thin.
it gets thin
Because
quickly.
I'm about to make a nasty pick, by the way,
Oh,
coming up here.
okay.
But first I'm gonna pick Gary Payton.
Let's
Um,
go. Love it.
there's better guards available, but he's the only one really who can play next to Nash in a backcourt, I think, given he's that good defensively. Um, also, by the way, great scorer at his peak. People
Yeah.
forget. This is a top five MVP finisher, basically. Top
Mhm.
10 MVP finisher for like almost a decade. Um, and a lot of that has to do with the scoring, right, as well. Like people forget. Obviously, not the best shooter, but I think with Dirk and Nash, I can afford to have a guy who, is not the a perfect shooter. Um, next up,
Oh,
I'm about
sorry,
to.
sorry. Just to, wait,
Oh
before
yeah,
you say, just a couple notes on Gary. Um, I do think that that's a great pick. I have him in my like top. I don't know if he's top 50, but he's in my top 50 like tier. But he's Mr. Nine-time All-Star, nine-time All-NBA, nine-time All-Defense, and 9 seasons of 20 and 7. To your point, with almost 2 steals per game. So, and a Finals appearance as a lead guard, and gave Jordan the scariest, arguably, Finals appearance, even though they were up 3-0. Uh, so just wanted to like shout that out. I think that they call him the glove for a reason, and he was the last defensive player of the year before Marcus Smart got it. So, anyways, just a solid pick.
yeah. Um, and then my next pick. I know, dude. I think you're gonna love this pick.
Let's
Um,
go. Come on.
this is gonna be my nasty. I'm sorry, listeners. I can't even get myself to say it. Dude, I'm gonna pick Grant Hill.
Oh, okay.
Oh, dude, I just think
Wow.
the fit is really good on this team. He is definitely not the ninth best player in this draft either. Gary Payton actually might be the eighth best player. Grant Hill is not the ninth best player in this draft.
Grant
Um,
Hill.
but I think he's big, a big forward. He's 6'8".
Mhm.
He can space the floor somewhat. Not a ton, but that's fine. Really great defender. Really athletic. I'm really thinking about him at his peak, his younger peak, age, like 24, 25. Um, obviously ages out, and like for people who remember how he aged out as like kind of a Tayshaun Prince, glorified Tayshaun Prince, on paper. He was better than that, I swear. But I think he'll fit really well with this team. He got to the free throw line a ton, so I think he's going to put a ton of pressure on the rim. And I think actually that's really what my team lacks, and that's kind of what I'm going for. Yeah. It's a nasty pick, but I really actually think this is probably the best pick that I have. So
Yeah, I mean, bro, I definitely don't hate this pick. He's like the captain, arguably the captain of the what if all-time team. And still a Hall of Famer, still 7-time All-Star and 5-time All-NBA, both of those being first or second team, and 6 seasons of 25 and 6. So like, people call him like an OG LeBron. And he still hung around for like 12 years after a devastating injury. So, in that sense, and was still averaging more than 10 points per game, and he didn't make any defensive player. teams, but he was still like in the voting ballot. So he kind of switched his game up later in his career. And I do think that in a weird way that gives you the like raw talent like peak, but also the mindset of like I know how to be a role player.
And that's honestly what I was going for. We'll get, I guess I'll mention this guy at the top, like a guy who could come to mind that you could be like, oh, why wouldn't you pick Tracy McGrady? You know,
Right.
but I actually would much prefer a guy like Grant Hill who right here does not need to be the first scorer, who can still contribute, but who can put hell. This is another thing. Prime Grant Hill was getting like 8 to 10 free throws a game, and
Right.
like despite not shooting the rock a ton. And I think that's like something I really wanted on this team with like Nash and Gary Payton, who might not do that. Dirk Nowitzki who might not do that a ton. So that's kind of fit wise my rationale there. And I want the ball to keep moving. And yeah, like the ball stopper on my team is Shaq. I don't need another one. Um, and Grant Hill was really good at that. So yeah, I think yeah. Also worth a watch. Like he's literally he spawns into the NBA as an all-star for like 6 straight seasons before he ever like hits a wall. Um,
Oh yeah.
so like imagine if that happened. It's like it's really like in some ways like Ben Simmons, except Ben Simmons didn't like except Ben Simmons was worse, to be honest, probably.
Yeah.
Actually, not probably. He was worse. So yeah.
Yeah, yeah, no, a better version of Ben Simmons,
Yeah.
for sure, and still hung around. So
Yeah.
no, I mean, again, we're going with fit, so
Yeah.
we're not going with like who was the best player, but he's a borderline, could have been top 75 guy all the time with that peak. So
And
makes
another
sense.
guy and another guy where like, this forward position as we talked about gets thin quick.
Right. Oh, 100%. It
If you want
does.
if you want guys who could play small forward and power forward, theoretically.
Right, right. Yeah, that's a really good point. All right. I do need a point guard still, and although there are a couple of point guards left, and I don't think you'd take both. I need to make sure I get one, and I'm good on scoring. So I want another guy that had a high ceiling as a playmaker and then aged really well in his career. So I'm going to go with Jason Kidd here. So we look at Hall of Fame, of course. We look at five-time assist champion. I think he's still top five in assists all time in his career. Six-time All NBA, nine-time All Defense. So I get that defense and I'm loving that. I have four guys with defense, 10-time All-Star, uh, and then aged really well. So still five-time first team All NBA, finished second in MVP voting in 2002, which was also one of the 2 years, the first of 2 years where he led teams to the finals as the starting point guard. So, the best, playmaker on those teams. Like Steve Nash, didn't need to score but could score if he had to. And even in 2011, he was the starting point guard on that Dirk Nowitzki team that you mentioned, and he averaged 9 and 7. So he was still a very effective playmaker. So I think this is like a perfect, not at all selfish. He doesn't need the ball kind of guy that I'm excited to see ball out with my squad. So I like that starting five.
Yeah, and I think that's a good pick. I don't have too much to add. I kind of I'll add more once you pick your next guy.
Fair enough. Um, huh. Now we get into a weird spot. Um, all right, I'm gonna wait for that. There's no like great option here, but I suppose, huh. All right, I still think I'll have options coming back. Man, this is tough. All right. I'm like deciding on eight different things here, but I'm gonna go with just in case you nabbed him. Uh, I need another big man, and I want a true center to come off the bench. And there's not too many true centers left. So I'm gonna go with a guy who played amazing for a few seasons, Alonzo Mourning.
No,
Oh, let's go.
no.
Let's
That's
go.
who I
Let's
wanted so
go. Let's
badly.
go.
Uh,
Let's go. Alonzo. Big Zo. So, father of one of the most hilarious memes of all time. Um, He is a Hall of Famer, seven-time All-Star, two-time block champ, two-time Defensive Player of the Year, two-time All-NBA, very high peak, two-time All-Defense, and two top three MVP finishes. 8 seasons of at least 19, 9 boards, and 2 blocks. And was on the Miami Heat team that won a championship. So he was nowhere near his prime at that point by any means. Um, Only averaged 4 points per game. But funny enough was still on like the voting thing for like defensive player of the year, like even though he was eighth. So, anyways, uh Alonzo Mourning. So I really love the defensive versatility here. Got a lot of deep boys. Love the size.
Great pick. And I think there's another gap. I think him, Garnett, and Shaq were the best like three true centers, and or Garnett or Duncan, whichever, however you feel about it. I guess those were the th best four true bigs. And then I think there's kind of a gap after them. We'll get to it. And I was gonna pick the guy that I'm about to pick to try to take him off the board for you, but then I had a feeling, like in my last pick, then I had a feeling you were gonna pick Jason Kidd, and I was like, I think you'll like Jason Kidd more than Iverson. Um,
Mm,
and so then I didn't pick Iverson. I was like, I think I can wait. And so that was also my math in picking Grant Hill. But
good
in
math.
retrospect, I should have picked Alonzo Mourning. No, I'm fine with it. But yeah, I think those are really great picks. Mourning is really underrated because his peak with Miami before Shaq gets there is actually extremely good. I mean, he's finishing alongside MVP finishes with like Duncan and Shaq.
Yeah, pretty insane.
It's like really slept on actually. He has like an incredible peak and a well-deserved ring to round out his career in some ways. So yeah,
Yeah, no, absolutely. I did not know that he didn't play in it for a full season due to illness. Very
yeah, me
interesting.
neither actually. That's interesting.
Um,
I wonder what happened. Okay. My picks, I'm gonna pick Allen Iverson. I think he's by
mm,
far the best player on the board by gap. And he can serve as like a great off the bench role here. This is like kind of perfect for him. It's like, yeah. So
Love
gonna
it.
pick him. A little bit on Iverson. Three-time
Four
Jesus.
time.
Uh let me pull up the page. Four-time scoring champ, seven-time All NBA, 11-time All Star. You're again another player I'm drafting for his peak where he's an MVP, scoring 31 points a game. You know, just really incredible player, but also Iverson for the time was the one guard who was performing in the small guard who was performing in the playoffs. You know, in the early 2000s, it's a very physical brand of basketball. And credit to Jason Kidd, right? Like he was another guy who was able to do it, but not in a scoring manner. Iverson was the one small scoring guard who was able to really put the team on his back and have like high end playoff finishes despite not winning a chip. Um, uh, the year that they make the finals, he's basically playing every minute of the playoffs, like literally just every minute of every playoff game. So, really happy to get him this late in the draft. On paper, he's actually probably like the fifth or sixth best player. I just think, again, we're building teams, and there's a
Right.
reason why I also didn't draft him earlier.
Yeah, I think this is a great pick. He has crazy scoring numbers just like across the board. Even though he has like a short prime or a short career, like relatively speaking. 4 seasons of 30 points per game or more, 9 seasons of 26 points per game or more, and 14 seasons of 22 points per game or more. So, and he averaged like 26 a game for his career. So, this is another dude that I wish we were a little bit older to see play in his absolute prime,
Mhm.
because he was just filthy.
Yeah. And with that, he's the guy who can put the ball in the hoop for me, so I don't necessarily need a ton more of that, given I have Dirk and Shaq, and then the other guys that have can score too. So my next pick here is going to be another spicy one. It's going to be Peja Stojakovic.
Oh, okay.
In my opinion, I think after him, I think there was already a gap after Grant. I mean, realistically, it's all shades. But I think at the forward position, it's probably the worst position. Sorry, I'm trying to pull up my. my depth chart. You had obviously had Nowitzki and Pierce. I think those are two clear best forwards, top 50 slash top 50 adjacent. And then for me, the next two guys were Grant Hill and Peja. And I think the rest of the guys, they're all good, but they're all either a little too ball dominant for me or not scoring enough for me. So that's why I'm picking Peja. Peja, great scorer, great shooter at his peak, but really people forget like this is a player who once upon a time was a top five MVP finisher at his peak. But for me, he's probably gonna do a lot of sitting in the corner. I just want high efficiency sniping, and I think he's by a margin probably the best shooter at the forward slot left. So yeah,
Yeah, that's totally fair. Yeah, he was good. Um, I think all right. So to match yours, and yeah, Page is a good pick. And he had a top two MVP finish in 2004,
yeah,
and
or
like 18 points per
top
game.
five, top five.
No, second.
He finished second. I thought he finished fourth.
Um, oh, you're right. Yeah, 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 yeah. You're right.
Oh,
Fourth,
but he
but
got a
second.
first. He finished third in first place votes. Um,
Ah, that's
that's kind of
crazy.
interesting. Behind Garnett and Jermaine O'Neal. That's a fun one
Yeah,
actually.
Jermaine O'Neal. I mean, that might be a guy that comes up later. But
Definitely.
so that's another small forward. You got two good small forwards in Grant Hill and Peja.
Yeah. And
Um,
and I'll probably bring Pages off the bench. I'll probably still start Nash and Gary Payton.
right. I think if we're doing our like our small forward arms race here, I want to make sure I have at least a second guy. So got to go with T-Mac here for sure. Um, yeah, Tracy McGrady. He is one of the. There's still a couple more that we haven't talked about, but like he's another arguably top 75 guy. But six top eight MVP finishes, two-time scoring champ in Orlando, seven-time All-Star, seven-time All-NBA. Just a sad injury career, like a lot of what ifs, but had many, many seasons averaging at least 24 points per game. And then he just kind of like fell off. But in Houston and in Orlando, he was unreal. And I don't have to worry about him choking in the playoffs because I have a
He
lot of
never
guys that
made
have
it.
won chips.
Yeah,
So
he never made it
uh,
that far.
he never made it that far. He blew a 3-1 lead as an Orlando Magic. Now, funny enough, you have one really good what if small forward who played for Orlando, and I have another really good small forward who played for Orlando that had like a couple of overlap years.
And there's another
But
one coming up,
there's another
or
what
I
if.
guess less known for his time in Orlando, but who did
Oh,
play a little bit in Orlando.
um,
Um, yeah, I
but
think
yeah.
this is a good
So
pick. Talent-wise, this is the best player on the board available in terms of top-end talent. My worry is just he's a little heliocentric for me. But when you're getting him as the 14th pick in this draft, that's pretty goated. Clearly, I think he's the only one left outside of Rasheed Wallace who has like multiple top five finishes in MVP, but I could be wrong.
mm,
Yeah, I actually, so I've hated on McGrady in terms of like him making what he made the Hall of Fame, right? Was that a thing?
he is in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah. And I don't think he should be a Hall of Famer, to be honest. Like, if I was building my dream Hall of Fame, like, he wouldn't be in it. But again, he's one of the few players left here who is in the Hall of Fame. It shows kind of his level of talent, shows, people remember that top end ability. And yeah, I think it's a really good pick, to be honest. Also, the only heliocentric shooting guard outside of Kobe who is doing,
Right.
like, who is really good.
And
Like, he was,
6'8". So
yeah, yeah. Yeah, shooting guard, small forward, like kind of that wing.
mhm.
Because also early 2000s basketball was still really just doing the double big, right?
Right.
Um, so yeah, not that that should
Uh,
affect how we build our teams, but
right, right. Um, hmm. Okay. So I like my scoring. I like the defense. I feel like I am short a point guard. However, many a point guard have been taken. So, man, it got real thin for point guards too. I didn't kind of realize that how thin it got quickly. But that's okay. I am going with guards that don't need to score. I'm going with guards that are champions, and I'm going with guards who are solid. So, kind of like a Jason Kidd light, another Hall of Famer, actually. I'm going to go with Chauncey Billups here, who was in the 97 draft.
Whoa.
I probably didn't need to take him based on your reaction there. I could have waited, but that's all
No, I
right.
like that.
Um, Another guy, kind of like Steve Nash, who had a slow start to his career because his peak was from ages 28 to 33. But Hall of Fame, five-time All-Star, three-time All-NBA, two-time All-Defense, and of course, super important for me, that 2004 Finals MVP. Again, it could have been a few guys on that Detroit Pistons team, but Chauncey Billups. Shame that it didn't work out with the Celtics, who he was drafted by, but that's how these things go, I suppose. Yeah, I really like him for his again, like I'm really valuing defense. He could shoot the three, especially like later on when he was playing with Denver. And so I think he's just like a very good complementary or like backup piece for when Jason Kidd is off the court. And I think he'll do really well with like feeding some of these more ball dominant guys. So he can play on the ball or off the ball. And yeah, so Chauncey Billups is my next guy.
All right. I like that pick actually. He was a little lower on my board, and I'm gonna actually pick a guard who I like better than him, but I do think he's a really great player and also could play with a lot of people. Underratedly was like pretty malleable for a point for a guard, so I like it a lot actually. Like what you're saying, like kind of the Jason Kidd mold distributor.
Mhm.
Um, but I'm gonna pick Anthony Hardaway, Penny
Oh,
Hardaway.
yes, sir.
That's what I'm gonna pick. I'm pretty happy with that. Uh, Kind of the only bigger guard that is available, and you're only picking him for the really high peak of his first 4 or 5 years, where he's kind of
Right.
in these MVP discussions, top 10 player discussions, etc. But feel really good with that. Another player who could shoot the ball for the era, it's the mid 90s, so no one's shooting the ball a ton, right? But it could shoot the ball a little bit. But I have other shooters, between Paige, Dirk, Steve, etc. Can make that work. And another guy who I think is going to be able to pass the ball and kind of contribute to like a more fluid offense. This does give me kind of three true point guards, Nash, Hardaway, and Iverson, but
Dude, and
Hardaway
Gary
can't
Payton.
and Gary Payton. But I think Gary Payton, I'm going to slide in the shooting guard in the starting lineup,
Mm,
right? And Anthony Hardaway is the only guard of that group who can really play other positions.
yeah.
He did, throughout his career played other positions. So, um, uh,
Yeah, great
yeah.
pick.
But so that's probably gonna round out my guard. Not to reveal that has to kind of round out my point guard selections for the time being. But I think there was kind of a gap behind him at the point guard slot, which is why I want to get that pick out of the way.
Mm.
Um, okay, next pick. This is one I'm a little half in, half out on, but I'm gonna pick Dikembe Mutombo.
Ooh, nice.
Realistically, I mean, Shaq is going to play most of the minutes as the center slot, but if I can sub him out for a guy of a similar mold who's also going to sit in the paint all game, that's fine. I think there's another center who's comparable to him that I could have also picked, but I like what Dikembe brings on the defensive end in terms of being like a defensive stalwart type thing going on. Because I do think that's kind of what my team needs more so from its center in the build that I'm building rather than like malleability, which I think some of the other centers give you. Um, so yeah, I'm gonna pick Mutombo. And there are also other uh let me actually let me read off some of his accolades. But 8-time All-Star, 3-time block champ, 3-time All-NBA, 6-time All-Defensive, but really considered to be one of the best defensive players of all time at his peak. This is a player that again, the 76ers who had Allen Iverson went out of their way to go acquire to pair, Mutombo and Iverson together because they viewed Mutombo as like, this great equalizer defense to Allen Iverson's offense. And in some ways, it's kind of what I'm building off the bench here as well. But yeah, he's really Mutombo is one of the 10 best defensive players in the NBA for a decade throughout the whole 90s and feel very confident picking him here. Also, like 15 rebounds a game at his peak. So I need a little bit of that given my forward setup.
Yeah, I think this is a great pick. Um, yeah, I mean, I love a guy that plays a long career, like so much fun. And that, I mean, that final season of his kind of like peak at age 35 with Philly in that finals run, he averaged 11 and 11 and 2.5 blocks on the way to the finals. So to your point, like Philly wanted him and Philly got him. But even before that, he had a bunch of years in a row averaging more than 10 points per game. And yeah, was an all-star as a rookie. So I definitely think that's a great pick. Really good player for Denver and for Atlanta. Just like a tier below, the stalwart centers of that era,
Yeah.
who
But
will not be picked in this draft.
but I would argue, you know, he is still a level worse, right, than Alonzo Mourning. There's a reason there's
Sure.
been no centers picked for like
Right.
6 straight picks.
No, I think that's very true. Um, Not until now. Um, I think there are two guys here who like top end talent. I think I need to just like take off the board. I can't believe that we haven't gotten to Ray Allen, but
Yeah,
he for me is like the final, arguably top 50 guy in this list. Um, but Hall of Famer, two-time NBA champ. To be fair, neither of those were as a lead guy, but with Boston, third option, kind of like that Klay Thompson role. But two-time NBA champ, and still like I think this is a great fit for that. I can take a back seat kind of guy. I can be a role player, but dude could hoop throughout his career. He was a 10-time All-Star, two-time All NBA. And like had was very good like for a long, long time, especially in Seattle and Milwaukee. I mean, he was averaging 22 for pretty much 7 years. So clearly a tier below Kobe around that 2000s period, but one of the best two guards in the game at the time. And even though we don't care too much about 3-point shooting, in my opinion, he's like a top five 3-point shooter ever, held the title as the greatest 3-point shooter for a while. Um, so
And
yeah,
I know we say that, but in terms of not caring too much, but the gaps are just so big. Ray
right.
Allen is just clearly the best 3-point shooter
Right.
of this whole group,
Yeah.
like of the 45 players we're gonna pick
Yeah, I
or
think that's totally
pick.
fair.
So I do
Um,
think there's something to be said there.
no, for sure. All right, and then next, I still think there's another great big man that is on the board here, and again is kind of in that like not yeah, anyways, I'm gonna just say his name. Chris Webber uh is also in the Hall of Fame. And again, he's one of those T-Mac guys. Should he be in the Hall of Fame? And maybe you and I should do like an NBA versus basketball Hall of Fame conversation at some point because I think there's like I call it the Mitch Richmond line of like
Yeah.
should you be here? But anyways, like Peja Stojakovic, great player for the Sacramento Kings, um, had a sneaky long career. I mean, he played for like 17 seasons, started and finished his career with Golden State, which is pretty fun. Even
Plays
though
for
he
the
didn't,
Wizards, plays for the
yeah,
Kings. Yeah, he hops
yeah,
around.
right. He hops around. He had 11, 20 point per game seasons. Uh, Pretty much only no with both the Wizards and with the Kings and with the Sixers, he was averaging 20. Um, but then it had four playoffs of 23 and 10 per game, and came a cheating referee away from making it to the NBA Finals, and who knows what happens. People all think that he would have beaten that Nets team with Jason Kidd, who's also on my squad. So, but I like Chris Webber. I think he's another good big body that I needed that could play power forward, that could play center, and yeah, so that's who I'm rocking with.
I like it. I like it. Damn, Chris, I think that's a spicy pick kind of. I do
Oh yeah.
think there. I actually think there's another big that I like similarly to
Oh
Chris
okay.
Webber. But Chris Webber is kind of in this next group of bigs I would have picked as well, like
Oh, okay.
him or the guy that I'm about to pick. Um, I'm about to pick Rasheed Wallace.
Yeah.
I think that's I like the fact that he can play power forward, and he's gonna give me defensive options here, while also being able to put the ball in the hoop as like an option off the bench. You know, he's never I'm never gonna play him without a center. You know, he's realistically in this team with Shaq and Dikembe, but that's fine. I mean, he was at his best in my opinion while playing next to a big center because he was so skilled and he can give me 15 minutes of that off the bench next to Dirk. Or but sorry, behind Dirk. So I'm pretty happy with that. Um, some stuff on Rasheed Wallace really quick. I mean, people you know, he's notorious for his time on the Trailblazers, his first 10 years, you know, the Portland Jailblazers, as they were known as. Um, but, you know, this is a guy who was getting all-star appearances during that time. And then later in his career is getting like defensive player votes. Um, this is another closer to role player status player than a put the ball in the hoop type player. You know, this is not McGrady. This is closer to Page type pick for me. But I think the fit is good, and I have scorers, or I have a few scorers, so I'm fine with it. Yeah,
Yeah, I think this is a good pick. Good like power forward center option. And could really shoot the three, like a pioneer of that big
yeah.
man 3-point shooting option. Certainly he's not going to back down, and he's an NBA champion, so a lot of good elements there.
And Chris Webber at his peak was like probably a better player in terms of like he could lead a team, but in terms like winning, I think you could argue that like Rasheed Wallace was up there too. Obviously, Chris Webber, like you're saying, you know, came very, especially at his peak, also was a very could absolutely contribute to winning. You know, let's not get it twisted. But I think Rasheed Wallace was also one of these guys who the stats didn't tell everything, and you could really see that, especially with that playoff run in Detroit, right, with Chauncey, who you picked earlier. Um,
Totally.
and I think we might see. We're gonna see a few of those Pistons players picked. We might see at least one or two more, I think.
Mm. Um, Dude, yeah.
Oh,
But
I
okay,
guess
so
I
you got
I
one
got
more, right?
another pick. Um,
This
Great.
is your 10th pick, by the way.
Yes. This one I'm gonna have some more fun, and this is someone who's a little bit more malleable. I'm gonna be able to bring him off as a spark, at the shooting guard slot as a true
Oh,
shooting guard rather than some of these guys, and it's gonna be
no.
Manu
Oh,
Ginobili.
damn it. Damn it.
And so Manu, obviously, right, like, you know, stats wise, it's just not as good as, you know, if you want to tell me his stats are not as good as Vince Carter's, right? I'm not going to argue with you. But I think Manu was like a player who contributed to winning a lot more. Came off the bench, like that was his thing, right? He was the sixth man, even winning six man awards when he would start half the season, right? But this is a guy who could play both really like he was a shooting guard, but he could handle the ball a ton. Great passer of the ball as a guy coming off the bench would average, you know, 5 assists a game, which I think was underrated, you know, for a shooting guard his caliber. Definitely not the defender that you would uh you know, not the defender of some of these other players, but definitely still a fine team defender, if that makes any sense on those Spurs teams. So I feel very comfortable picking him here. And this is really his role. I mean, I'm going to get to bring him off the bench for 20 minutes at the shooting guard slot, and he's going to get to change games. So I feel really happy with that.
Yeah, that's a great pick. I'm pissed. I was hoping you would pass him by. I was really hoping to pick him up.
I was not going to miss both him and Ray Allen. That was definitely like, I was like, I need to get, I think one of those, especially in the way that our draft and our team setup is, like losing both of those guys would really put me at a disadvantage in terms like off the bench spacing.
Hmm.
Like, because Manu isn't the shooter, but he was really, uh, like I don't know, a versatile player, if that makes any sense. Like he
Right,
could shoot, he could slash,
right.
distribute. So
Yeah, I think that's a great pick. All right. I got my 2 point guards. I got some good shooting guards, Kobe and Ray Allen. I got some wings in Pierce and Tracy McGrady. I mean, I guess this is what happens when you get to like ten people deep. So now we're gonna kind of just like look around for other good options. I'm not too worried about like talent gap differential here at this point. Um, it's not like I'm short on dogs, but I think I'm gonna definitely not the best player left, but I really like Meta World Peace on our test.
Mhm.
2004 Defensive Player of the Year, and that year he was an All NBA, and that year he was an All Star. And then there was that awful Malice of the Palace situation, which who knows what could have happened because those Pacer teams were quite good. But he does end up winning a chip a few years later on the Lakers as a starting player. Hits that clutch shot that broke every Celtics fan's heart in Game 7, and he was a four-time All Defense guy. So uh, I like the defense that I get here with Meta. Just kind of like looking at his stats, it's not like he couldn't put the ball in the hoop. I won't count that 2005 Indiana season because he only played 7 games before he got suspended, but he was averaging 25. But even if we're looking at other years where he averaged, significant amount of games for Sacramento, he averaged 20 points per game, near 20 points per game. And then even in his peak form, he could still get around 18 points per game. So yeah, just like a pretty good player, not the worst 3-point shooting based on the time, like average around 35%.
Quite good,
And
honestly. Probably would have been a 40-point three-point shooter in modern NBA.
right.
Um,
So my only worry is that he's gonna kind of like lose his mind a little bit because he's kind of a crazy person, but that's okay because we have a lot of crazy people on our team. So
Kobe will
that's
keep
another
him in
good,
check.
exactly. Yeah, KG will keep in check.
Yeah.
So yeah, Meta, and then, at this point it is kind of just like all gravy, to be honest. I'm not too worried about getting secondary scoring because I feel like the gaps, even if like you take Vince Carter, no, I should take Vince Carter. Um, yeah, I'm gonna take Vince Carter, drafted in '98. Uh,
Yeah.
Hall of Fame, 8-time All-Star, 2-time All-NBA. Very, very strong first half of his career in Toronto and with New Jersey. 11 straight seasons of 20 points per game. Um, Not a lot of like big playoff implications as a younger leading guy. I mean, with Toronto, he did in the 2001 season like get to the second round and average pretty good stats. With New Jersey, got to the second round a couple times, um, and then was just like a role player. So I think that the versatility of we need yet another guy that can go out there and score 27. That's Vince Carter, but also, hey, we just need you to hit threes and, be an energy dude. He and be a leader. He can do that too. So,
Love that
yeah,
pick.
Meta and Vince.
Yeah. Love that pick. I think Vince is the best guard left on the board by a long shot too. So you're taking him off the board for me. I think that's a great pick. And then Artest, I think, has the highest ceiling of all the forwards left. I think there's just few other forwards that you could have picked, depending on what you wanted, but Artest has the highest ceiling of all those pretty clearly. Um, with that, I'm gonna pick two straight forwards. I need
Nice.
some dogs on my team. Because you got a lot of scorers at the wing slot, where that'd be McGrady, uh, um, Carter, and Kobe
Pierce.
Bryant.
Yeah.
Um, Me, on the other hand, I've got my Grant Hill who can guard. I've got my Pedro who's kind of a shooting option, but I don't have like defensive options off the bench. So I'm picking two. Sean Marion,
Love it.
and I think probably the best swing available still. Probably not the best peak of the swings available, but probably the best swing available overall. But then the next guy I'm going to pick is very defensive option, and I want to be able to play him a power forward if I want to instead
Oh,
of
wait.
Rasheed
Wait,
Wallace. Oh
let's
yeah,
talk through Sean Marion real quick.
yes, yes, yes.
Um,
We could. Yeah, you want to take it or
yeah, love that. So four-time All-Star, two-time All-NBA. To your point, great defender and extremely versatile. The Matrix. Um, and he peaked with Phoenix. I mean, he averaged 17 and 11 in the playoffs, and they were oh so close so many times. But even as a starter on the Dallas chip team, 12 and 6. So, has that I can take a back seat. I know how to play my role. Really, really great hybrid player. So, anyways, I just think that's a great pick.
and
But go on.
And even after his like true peak where he was like an all-star player, he was still like 15 points a game on good shooting and great defense for like another 10 years. So he can give me that off the bench and just be a
Totally.
great defender. Um, but he was only 6'7", no pun intended. And I want another guy who can guard power forwards potentially as a different option instead of Rashida Wallace and a more defensive option. And so I'm actually going to pick Andre Kirilenko.
Oh, okay.
And so for some stuff on Andre Kirilenko, he's basically one of the best defensive players of the early 2000s on the Utah Jazz. He's drafted in the 90s, doesn't actually get to the NBA until the early 2000s, but is basically a top 15, top 10 defensive player in the league for the first 10 years of his career, before kind of, flaming out a little bit earlier than you would expect. But he's like kind of the 6'10" forward who could also shoot ish for the time, but he really was not a player who was getting the ball in the hoop. A true 3 and D kind of power forward, small forward, if that makes any sense. And he was not dribbling, he was not creating, but it was really great defense, and he could play within an offense still. And so that's why I'm gonna pick him.
Yeah, I think that's a great pick.
He could
And he
pass the ball.
was,
He could pass the ball too, actually.
yeah, he could pass the ball. He had a couple seasons of like over three. I mean, he had a season of 4 assists per game. Also, Andy was a blocks leader, which is
Yeah,
pretty impressive
yeah.
as a small forward, power forward. So I think that's a great counter to the scoring punch
And and
that I got.
probably the only like this type of player we see a lot more in the modern NBA. This guy who can guard threes and fours extremely well. Um, like these gig athletic, like Aaron Gordon. That's the example.
Mm,
This back then we did not have that because the difference between a three and a four back then was 4 or 5 inches of height. McGrady could play the three at 6'6", 6'7", and we had fours who were 6'11", back then. So like that's the thing I really like about Karolinko, and I think people should forget that. It was a very unique luxury player to have.
right.
And he would
Yeah,
play the three.
yeah.
He would just play the three, actually. Like I would probably play him mostly at the four, but Karolinko when he played would just mostly play at three.
Yeah, I think that's a great pick. Great call. To be honest, I had like looked at him, but I hadn't put him on my list. But now that you describe everything about him, I love that. Um,
And there's the other small forwards that are still available. There are ones with better peaks. I think his specialization is better, if that makes
mhm.
sense.
Yeah, absolutely. I know. I think that that's a fantastic pick. All right. Um, Looking ahead to my 12th and 13th guys. We talked about this dude a little bit. We referenced him, but I do gotta add Jermaine O'Neal to my team, I think, to kind of round out my center situation. Um, yeah, I mean, Jermaine O'Neal, second best O'Neal ever. He was 6-time All-Star, 3-time All-NBA, 19-9 for 6 seasons, and third place MVP in 2004. So everybody on the Pacers was kind of popping off in 2004. Uh, yeah, I mean, just really, really solid player that I think kind of rounds out my center position.
Could play power
Uh,
forward too. You kind of have this like front line of like 4 or 5 guys who could play power forward slash center, honestly.
right. So I'm happy about that. And then, but now I'm thinking I need yet another pass first point guard. I have enough guys that can score their own buckets, so I don't want like a more stereotypical like Damian Lillard type point guard, of which there are many of these options. That maybe once we finish the draft, we can like give our honorable mentions. This guy has no all-stars. He's arguably one of the best players ever to not have won an all-star appearance. But he is certainly a damn good pass first point guard.
Oh,
I'm going to go with Andre Miller. Um, Definitely like an unheralded guy. Doesn't have a lot of playoff success. That's all right. I just need a guy that's going to come in and facilitate the offense at this point. He did have a couple seasons. He had many seasons actually where he averaged over 13 a game and he averaged over 7 a game. So, and yeah, he had 13 seasons of 13 and at least six. So, I like the facilitation. He did lead the league in assists in one of his years, and he's like kind of sneaky up there in all-time assists leaders. So, um, Andre Miller as my
And pretty good
third.
defender when he was locked in too, Andre Miller. Pretty good defender when he was locked in.
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy with that too, with the
Yeah.
ethos of this team. So
Um,
okay, I think
nice.
5, 6, 7, 8, 9,
Oh,
10,
you're at
11,
you're at
12, 13,
14.
14. I'm at 14. So I have one more pick. I think you have two more picks.
Yeah. So I got to do my two picks right here. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm gonna give you some good ones. I would love to pick a scorer here, but I don't think any of the scorers available as top end talent is worth it. So I'm gonna pick Eddie Jones.
Oh, nice.
I'm happy with that actually. So he's multi-time All-Star, but he's another guy who is a all defensive level player that I'm going to be able to deploy. But he's definitely going to be more of a true shooting guard versus Sean Marion. Me thinking I'm deploying him at the three, and Kirilenko I'm thinking I'm deploying him at the four. So Eddie Jones at the guard slot is going to give me a true defensive shooting guard that I could play next to Steve Nash or next to Allen Iverson, which I really like, in case I don't want to play Ginobili there. So that's kind of my thought there. Um, if I had a more scoring guard available who was not a total nutcase, then I would pick them. But most of the guards left are nutcases. So,
Yeah, they are.
um, and my last pick is actually going to be a pick kind of to prevent you from making a pick. I'm pretty happy with all my guys. They're no guards are going to get any time on my team if I pick them because I already have Eddie George, Nobly, Penny Hardaway, and Allen Iverson. And realistically, all the forwards left, none of them can score the ball as much as I would like to. So I'm actually going to pick Ben Wallace. I don't want to give you a chance
Oh,
to
nice.
pick another center who,
Undrafted, only undrafted player.
yeah, only in draft. I actually meant to ask you before the draft if we could pick him. Damn, I was gonna.
I was thinking about it. I wouldn't have picked him. So I mean, I might have picked him, but that's fine.
Fair enough. I'm gonna pick Ben Wallace, another just giga defensive option. If you jump ball at the end of a game and I need four centers out there, I'll throw out Ben Wallace with Mutombo and Shaq and everything will be G. So um yeah.
Love it. Yeah, no notes on that one. Um, to wrap up my team, um, I want a winner. You and I both have a lot of winners on our team. Maybe we could like go through and count the rings, but we both have guys with chips galore. But I want a winner. Uh, Looking at the kind of the Olympic gold medal team for the U.S., they took a couple role players, and this guy is like the ultimate role player. So I'm gonna go with maybe he was at the right place, right time, but he hit a lot of big shots. They call him Big Shot Bob. I'm gonna go with Robert Ory,
Yeah.
7-time champion, 94 and 95 with Houston, the three-peat with LA, and '05 and '07 with San Antonio. So it's fine. I don't need any more scoring punch. He's just a great player that if things aren't working out, there's some injury issues,
Need
you
some
need a couple
shots.
clutch shots. You got Robert Ory. So
He was the other guy I was thinking about picking instead of Ben Wallace. So that was
yeah,
literally, yeah, I was the same page. Obviously, not the best player available,
of course.
yeah,
Certainly.
not the best player at his position available, but again, 15th man, would you want him or Latrell Sprewell, who's going to beat up your
Right.
coach,
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
you um, great. So really quick, just to round out the draft, let me just read back to you, what I have. Um, and then, sorry, you just picked Ori. So you have Kidd, Kobe, Paul Pierce, Tim Duncan, Kevin Garnett. You're gonna play Tim Duncan at the center. You have Alonzo Mourning, Tracy McGrady, Chauncey Billups, Ray Allen, Chris Webber, Ron Artest, Vince Carter, Jermaine O'Neal, Andre Miller, and Robert Ori. Great
Yep.
team. I've got Steve Nash, Gary Payton, Grant Hill, Dirk Nowitzki, Shaq. And then I've got Iverson, Page, Penny Hardaway, Mutombo, Rasheed Wallace, Manu, Sean Marion, Andre Kirilenko, Eddie George, jeez, Eddie Jones.
Jones.
Eddie
Yeah.
George was a football player. And then Ben Wallace. Really quick, some honorable mentions.
Yeah.
Someone I wanted to pick and who I think might be the best player available, who is not a center, is Michael Finley. I thought I was going to end
Mm,
up picking him, and I just never, it didn't come up.
yeah. I love Michael Finley, two-time All-Star, 2007 champ with the Spurs, averaging 11, 19, 9, or 6 seasons of 19 points per game. Yeah, good honorable shout.
It's just almost, he was almost too close to like the Lamar Odoms, the Derek
Yeah.
Colemans, the Jamal Mashburns, where I was just like,
Yeah.
yeah, if I wanted
Mashburn.
that, I mean, if I wanted that type of player, I just would have picked Finley.
Right.
But then the gaps aren't that big, and 15th man, it's probably not a type
Right.
of, yeah. Eh.
Yeah, I like that. Just to kind of add on two other guys that feel like the same player, but Glenn Robinson and Antoine Walker were two other ones that like they both were buckets and like helped their teams to some amount of success. So um,
Did
also
not
Elton
have
Brand.
Antoine Walker on my list. Maybe I should have, honestly.
Um, yeah, and also Elton Brand was like another sneaky good center.
Him and Marcus Camby would have been my
Yeah,
next two up at the center slot.
yeah.
Antonio McDice, right, was another guy you could have picked, but I
Mm,
think he's just a little worse than those guys. Guards, you have Marbury, Sprewell, and
yeah,
Stackhouse, I think, are the next
and
three up,
Francis too.
which, yeah, Steve Francis. So I'm good.
Yeah, I'm
You know,
so good. I'm
I'm
with
good
you.
on that. Yeah.
Like Baron
I probably would have
Davis.
picked Stackhouse. I probably would have
Yeah,
picked Baron Davis or Stackhouse, but
yeah,
probably the best player is probably Stephon Marbury on that list.
yeah. I would say that's probably right, but
But
not necessarily with the fit. Yeah,
yeah, and at that point, like what we picked six guards in this draft each, I think.
yeah.
So
Man, this was fun.
yeah, this is great. Anyways, this is a long pod for you guys. You guys got LeBron content, and you guys got a hour and change draft. So hopefully you guys enjoy it. Anthony, you guys any? Oh, you have to let us know what you guys thought. Won the draft in the
Yeah,
comments, obviously very important. Who would win? Are we gonna say who would win against a 7 game series? Is that what we're gonna say?
yeah. Let's do
Okay,
that.
but so yeah, let us know what you think. And yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed it.
Love y'all. I love this off season, and as always, we'll be spitting hoops. Let us know who you think won this draft. Talk soon.
Goodbye.